Well, hi, welcome to my latest video. Well, in this one, I'm going to do a full upgrade of a motherboard. This particular one I have sitting on the bench here, I've shown multiple times in the past. It is an ASUS Prime X570 Pro motherboard. A lot of nice features to it, and I bought it back in 2021. It was originally intended to go into this PC back here as a motherboard upgrade to give me a few more features I wanted for my streaming purposes. After all, that is my streaming rig that's back there. However, I decided to test it, put it into an initial PC, case and everything, in order to see how it would work out first. Well, lo and behold, one thing led to another, and I wound up using that PC for some other purposes, as you can sort of expect, right? Well, I don't need those anymore, and I am suffering a little bit in terms of some of the missing features. As I was trying to get ready for my next stream, I found out that it would be nice to have those features that this motherboard has that the one that's currently in there does not. Well, I went ahead and set it up, and I realized that the BIOS is way out of date. Probably 4 or 5 versions. I'll put it up on the screen here right now so you can take a look and see how far back it is. Most of the upgrades have to do with stability, but there's a few critical patches along the way too, in terms of security and otherwise. So I'd like to get those all in there before I put it online as a streaming PC. Well, I've downloaded the actual BIOS to this USB stick, an 8 gig USB stick that I use for that purpose. And I'm going to go step by step and show you how I'm going to upgrade and do a full screen capture of it as I do it, this particular motherboard, to first upgrade the actual BIOS itself, which some people have questioned and have asked me about and wanted something that was more pointed in that direction. And in addition to some of the things you have to be aware of whenever you upgrade the BIOS, things that the new BIOS would automatically reset, things like your fan tuning, things like your memory overclocking, the D.O.C.P in this case because it's an AMD system that's on this particular motherboard. So I'm going to go through all of those, get this motherboard ready to go into that PC, and in a future video I will go ahead and make the transition and upgrade that PC. So let's get started and let me know if you have any questions about it. Okay, I've turned on the PC, capturing the screen. Oh, I just heard the beep, so we did a proper post. Let me hit the delete key so I can go into the BIOS, and we're in. Notice that we have BIOS version 4005. That's out of date by 4 or 5 versions at this point. So I'm going to update it. Let me go into the advanced mode, and then I'll go into tools. And before I go into the Easy Flash utility, I'm going to put the USB with the new BIOS in place into a USB port. Now when I go into the utility, I can see the list of all of the drives, partitions that it sees. The one I want is the one that's just under 8 gig. That's the size of my USB. So I'm going to click on that. And sure enough, here's the latest version of the BIOS. The Prime X570 Pro ASUS 4802 this time. So I'm going to click on that. Important. BitLocker recovery. I don't have BitLocker turned on. Do you want to read this file? Yes, I do. Now, one thing that I have going on here is I have it plugged into a UPS, so I shouldn't lose power as it gets updated. So I'm going to say yes, I do want to update the BIOS, and here it is in the process of updating. Okay, the BIOS has been updated. That took 8 or 9 minutes actually, and it's automatically rebooting. So I'll try to go back into the BIOS and we'll take care of that. This delay looks like it's because it's trying to resize. Here we go, I just heard the post code. Okay, it's updating the LED firmware. That happens sometimes depending on how drastic the change is. In this case, I was back about 4 versions. So that sort of makes sense. And here we go. I heard the beep, so now I'm hitting delete. See if we can go back into the BIOS. It says go back into the BIOS anyway, so I didn't have to hit delete because it's changed everything. Hit F1, and here we go. Now, it's always good to go back in here and take a look. For example, if you recall, you can back up the video to see it, I had D.O.C.P originally enabled. Right now it's been disabled again because of the replacement of the BIOS. We do have the latest version of the BIOS up here now, 4802. So let's go ahead and re-enable it, and then we're going to have to reboot that to bring that back up again. So I'm going to say profile number 1 is the only one this particular one supports. Okay. Okay, I'm going to have to save and exit in order for this to take effect. So I hit F10 or just click on this icon here. These are the changes that's going to make to the memory in order to go into the predefined D.O.C.P profile number 1 memory overclocking is primarily what it is. It should reach 3600 megahertz. That's supported by this particular set of memory that I have here. So let's make sure that that's the case when it does come up. I'll click OK. It's now rebooting automatically. I heard the postcode, so it posted OK. Now I'm hitting the delete key to go back into the BIOS. Let's see what we get this time. And if we look at it now, it shows memory is running DDR4 3600 megahertz. Even though the DIMMs themselves by default are 24, it has been set. Profile number 1 is now enabled. So we've got that done. Make sure we re-enable that. Another thing that could be put out of whack is the fan control. The ASUS motherboards happen to be a family of motherboards that will support automatic fan control upgrades, but you have to click on this Q fan control button here in the center bottom, and let's take a look at each of the fans to see what they look like. Make sure that they all have PWM set is what we want. So CPU fan, of course. Channel 1 fan, yes. Channel 2 fan, no. That one's set for DC. Let me set it to PWM. Channel 3 fan. I don't have these fans on, but if I do put them on, I want it to automatically kick in. Now the water pump and the AIO pump. The water pump is a higher power version of the pump. It's only used generally if you're doing custom loops. So it's really AIO pump that might be the case. Neither one is on this particular motherboard, but when it is on, it just runs the pumps at full speed, as you can see here. So I don't have to change that, but I will now say optimize all, and when I do that, it'll automatically program the fans accordingly. Let me hit optimize all. It's going to do Q fan tuning. It says it's going to take 2 to 5 minutes. That's okay. So we'll take a look at this. I have 2 fans on here, the CPU fan, and we have an auxiliary fan here. Let me go ahead now and click OK to this, and we'll see what happens. The fans are going maximum speed at this point. Microphone nearby it. They're slowing down. The PWM speed is going way down at this point. The CPU fan comes to a complete stop. So does the auxiliary fan. And now they're turning on again. Here we go. So they're slowing down again at this point. And there, it's tuned the fans at this point. Let me go ahead now and click OK to that. It sees the adjustments that it had to make to the duty cycles of those fans. So now we have the fans tuned, and I can escape this. At this point, the BIOS is set the way I want it. So what I will do is go back into Windows and see what it looks like. I will do a save and exit first. It shows the duty cycle changes again. Say OK. I won't go into the BIOS this time. Looks like it recycled again. It's probably training the memory. It rebooted. Windows is up. Okay, so now we've gone ahead and updated the BIOS to the latest version. And in this particular case, it was primarily a bunch of different changes. The most recent version was mostly stability focused.